Today, we're going to take a deep dive into a single global standard that's quietly helping to shape Thailand's entire digital future. So let's break down exactly what it is and, more importantly, why it matters so much right now.
So let's just start with the big question, right? As the whole world shifts to a digital-first economy, you have to ask, how ready is Thailand's workforce to really compete on that stage? This is the core challenge we're going to unpack.
And here's our game plan. First, we'll look at the big digital challenge facing the nation. Then we'll introduce the global standard that's being used as a solution. We'll see why it's so trusted around the world, how it plugs directly into Thailand's national strategy, and then, the best part, we'll look at the actual results on the ground.
Okay, first up, the challenge. You know, to really get why the solution is so important, we first have to understand the problem it's trying to solve. And it all ties back to Thailand's biggest long-term goals.
So the country's 20-year national strategy is crystal clear. The main goal is to develop and empower its people. But, in today's world, that's impossible without a workforce that has digital skills on par with international standards. And that's the massive challenge, isn't it? How do you systematically assess, build, and then certify these skills for millions of people all across the country?
So, how on earth do you tackle a challenge that huge? Well, that brings us to the solution we're talking about today, the International Computer Driving License, or as most people call it, ICDL.
Okay, so what is ICDL, really? Think of it as a global benchmark for digital skills. It actually started way back in 1997. A few key things to know. It's run by a nonprofit foundation. It's vendor neutral, which means it doesn't care if you use Microsoft, Google, or anything else. And it was built within the European Union's framework to create one single, reliable way to measure digital know-how.
And just to give you a sense of the scale we're talking about, this isn't some small niche certification. Nope. The ICDL standard is used in over 120 countries. That makes it one of the most widespread digital frameworks on the entire planet. And get this, the number of people who have actually gone through the program is just staggering. We're talking more than 20 million people worldwide who have earned an ICDL certification. That is a massive global community of skilled professionals.
Of course, you can't have that kind of global reach unless people can actually, understand it. So the entire system, all the learning materials, the exams, everything has been translated into 41 different languages, including, of course, Thai. This just makes sure that language is never a barrier. Now, being big is one thing, but with any global standard, trust is everything. So before we dig deeper into what's happening in Thailand, it's really important to understand why ICDL is so respected on the world stage.
A huge piece of that trust comes from how it lines up with something called the EU's DigComp framework. You can basically think of DigComp as the official gold standard for digital skills, designed by the European Commission to define what it really means to be digitally competent. And here's where it gets really interesting. When you stack up all the different international frameworks against that EU gold standard, ICDL comes out on top, providing the most comprehensive coverage of all the core digital competencies. It just ticks more boxes than anyone else.
And hey, you don't have to take my word for it. This isn't just some marketing claim. This finding comes straight from a 2018 UNESCO study. They're the ones who verified that ICDL's coverage is more complete than 8 other major international standards. That is some powerful third-party validation right there.
So, with that global credibility locked in, let's pivot and bring this whole conversation back home. How is this world-class standard actually being put to work to meet Thailand's specific needs?
This is so crucial. This isn't just some outside program being pushed. No, it's been deeply woven into the national strategy. You've got endorsements from the Civil Service Commission, the Professional Qualification Institute, the Ministry of Education, and the National Digital Economy Commission. That's buy-in from literally every important angle.
So what does it look like in practice? Well, it follows this really simple but super powerful 3-step process. Assess, build, and certify. First, you figure out where someone's skills are right now. Then, you build on that with training that targets their specific weak spots. And finally, you certify those new skills against that global standard so they have solid proof of what they can do.
Okay, so the strategy sounds great. But what about the results? Let's move away from policy and look at the proven impact this is having on the ground, right here in Thailand.
The scale of this is pretty incredible.
During the COVID-19 pandemic, which was obviously a critical time for online learning, a staggering 89,000 vocational students were trained using the ICDL platform. This meant that even when the world shut down, their skill development didn't have to stop. And it's making a huge difference in the public sector too. A pilot project with the Office of the Civil Service Commission saw 12,000 civil servants get trained and assessed. That's a massive step towards building a truly modern digital government. And these aren't just abstract numbers. This training translates into real-world productivity. To see the potential payoff, just look at this data from a study in the UK's National Health Service. After ICDL certification, staff saved an average of 38 minutes every single day, and calls to the IT help desk just plummeted. That is a huge quantifiable return on investment. So let's pull all these threads together. In our final section, let's look at the big picture. What does having one unified, high-quality standard really mean for Thailand's digital future? Here's the bottom line. When you adopt a single, trusted standard like ICDL, it creates this powerful ripple effect. It makes the entire country more competitive. It helps attract foreign investors who are looking for a skilled workforce. It boosts efficiency everywhere, speeds up the shift to a digital government, and ultimately, it builds a nation of people who are truly ready for the future economy. So the framework for success is already here, a globally proven standard that's perfectly set up for Thailand. The real question isn't about the tool anymore, but about our collective will to use it. Are we ready to really uplift the nation together?